Uh, Um, so we're going to go into breakout rooms and talk over potential metrics and timelines to meet that goal. And then based on feedback from previous meetings, we're also going to be working on a resource guide, which we will kind of go through later and explain what that is. So before we jump in, I just want to offer a chance for introductions. If you're new to the meeting today, you can just give a little shout out. I think everyone here has been here before, but feel free to just say hello if you're new. All right. So moving on to just kind of like a little refresher of what building a collective is, or the purpose of this group. It's basically gathering partners and organizations and initiatives on the South Side and beyond to move from working individually to working as a collective, in the hopes that we can identify gaps, expand reach, strengthen connections, and align efforts for the youth in our communities. And one way to contribute collectively is by participating in the planning process and the facilitation of this monthly meeting. So for example, this month, Ariel and Tanzania, Ariel from Safe and Sound and Tanzania from Beyond STEM joined us in the planning process. So we had a meeting and we kind of talked through the way we wanted this to go. And they contributed some really key ideas to how we're going to be moving forward. And then Ariel is going to be helping co-lead the meeting with us today, which we're very happy about.
Cool. Yeah. So when we were kind of looking at those numbers or creating a goal, we had 3 different goals that we were all kind of discussed as a group the last time. And we felt like increasing the number of youth participating in programming could potentially really kind of play into the other ones, or the other ones could be like a part of our strategy towards increasing the number of youth. So because they're fairly related, we decided to focus on that as our first goal. It's just kind of increasing those numbers. But then like Allison mentioned, we have to figure out what those metrics look like. What kind of improvement are we going to make? And what kind of time period are we going to be doing that in?
So, hi Deontay.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Sorry, this.
No problem. We were just talking about, we've kind of selected a collective goal. And that is, we had a couple to choose from. And the first one that we're going to focus on is increasing the number of youth participating in programming. If you can see on the slides, there's other goals that we were looking at, but we think that starting with this one will help us, like, we'll be able to work toward the other ones while doing this. So today what we're going to be doing is looking at metrics and timeline. We want to be able to quantify this goal in some way that's useful to the group. So thinking through what are some of the ways to go about doing that, which metrics might work best, what length of time do we want the collective to work on this goal, like would it be 3 months, 6 months, a school year, a calendar year, that kind of thing. So I think some people are still trickling in, but what I'm going to do is put you in a couple breakout rooms to kind of talk through some of these things. We'll spend about 10 minutes doing that, and then we'll come back and talk through it and try to establish a few metrics and timelines and decide on some that makes sense. But before we go into the breakout rooms, does anyone have questions or feel like they need clarification on anything? All good, thumbs up. Okay. So I'm going to put you all in some breakout rooms real quick and we'll spend about 10 minutes. And remember, the question is, how do we want to go about quantifying this goal and what is the timeline we're looking at? Okay. I'm hoping there were some other great discussions. Does anyone want to share some of the things that their group talked about?
I can go first if you want. Okay, we had Kelly from 16th Street, or no, Kelly from, will you say the title? It was,
Yeah, it's 16th Street. I'm
Okay.
just in the Department of Environmental Health and Community Wellness. It's very long.
okay. And Samantha from First Stage. And what we talked about was really wanting to deepen the connection between the partners with each other and then also with youth. And we talked about trying to do something where there would be an opportunity for youth to actually experience the programming that we would have to offer. So it wasn't, and we talked about it being more ongoing than just a certain length of time, but really trying to build deeper connections and relationships over time so that the different program staff and program leaders would have ongoing connections and relationships and wouldn't necessarily just be within a certain amount of time, but even trying to create pipelines from one program to another. And having partners really deeply understand each other's programs so that if one group is working with a student or youth, a young person, they might be able to steer them towards something. But we kind of ended our conversation by saying that one of the ways, as I already said, we'd like to build that is by really thinking about having an opportunity for youth to experience people's programs and see what they're about. Not just a fair where you have a table and hear about programs, but where you actually have the opportunity to experience them.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anyone else from another group want to share?
Oh, we got who else? So we had Muskego Way Forward was in our call, and Antoine and Ariel as well. So we were just really talking about what is that the number looks like, right? That percentage increase. Ariel made a great point where she was saying instead of growing the number, instead we should probably focus on a percentage based off of the different organizations and how we're tracking numbers of that. So we were talking about possibly looking at 5% for the rest of the year. So we were discussing whether we want to do that at a 6-month rate or at a quarterly rate. Then I think that's just something we could discuss here. But then we also talked, Antoine really made a great point in that we should also try to find out what is the qualitative experience as well. So quantitative data is everything, right? Everyone wants to know how many sites you have, how many young people you serve, how often they come. All of those numbers means a lot when it comes to data metrics, but the qualitative data is just as important and critical, especially around this table. So looking at what are the key things that we want our young people to take away, right? So it's not just a hallelujah moment, right? So we got 100 people that show up and then they leave still empty. They probably not coming back, right? So how do we make sure that they're getting something that is fruitful for them? And also just something that we can speak to across our footprint, our organizations. And then the last point that I think I will make, that anyone from the team, please chime in, but was that understanding what each of us do and figuring out how do we amplify it so we could do that well as a collective, right? So we were talking about Safe and Sound. They don't really serve youth per se at an actual center, but they support all of our agencies that actually serve youth in one way or the other. So just speaking of the canvassing, right? How do we get that in the hands of Safe and Sound to be able to communicate and answer any questions that may come up for parents as it relates to coming to our centers, regardless of whatever our center is. So I'll stop there. Anybody from the team, please chime in.
I would just throw in that, Rachel, what your group was kind of saying and what our group was saying already mirrors some of the things that were brought up in the last meeting, where I think Patrick was talking about like assessing metrics in a different way in terms of engagement. And we will be going through this resource guide, which is going to help us like figure out where each of us can provide support in this. And I think I had too many thoughts and I lost my thoughts. So someone should go and I maybe will be able to come back to that.
I can go. I mean, our group mirrored a number of the things that were mentioned already, particularly like the increasing by a certain percentage amount and like aligning our like quantified goal based on ways we're already quantifying our own goals within our organization versus something outside of that. And then also considering a timeline around grant cycles, knowing that many of us write and utilize and leverage grants. And so that might be a way to also select a timeline if it's a 1-year grant or 3-year grant, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion too. I think the other thing I was going to say before is that I think a lot of you do have experience with like really meaningful engagement, and it would be great to call on that, like some of that knowledge and expertise when we're looking at what does meaningful engagement look like and how can we tie that into quantifying, like how can we find a blend between the qualitative and quantitative numbers we're looking at. So if anyone has the golden nugget or the magic ticket or some thoughts they want to share on that, maybe that can help us kind of move this forward or figure out where we want to focus.
Just kind of speaking on what Antoine brought up during the breakout rooms, I think we could add some of that stuff to the guide. And so we do have the suggested template that people follow, but maybe we could add a couple of different things. For instance, like a lot of, I'm always thinking in teacher terms, but like a lot of times you have like clear objectives, or you have like the standards that you're going to hit for a particular program. And so kind of speaking on what he was saying of like knowing what these young people are going to walk away with and knowing kind of like what the outcome of them participating is. We could definitely at least try to put that into the guide.
So do we want to decide on something today as far as metrics? Like, is there kind of a sense of like a clear metric that we could use? Does a percentage make sense when we're measuring the overall group? Does a specific timeline sound good to you guys? Like, do you think that, you know, the grant cycle focus is good? Do you think that quarterly is good? I just love to hear some thoughts, and maybe we can kind of come to a decision or a conclusion. Ariel said, I liked what Deontay said about quarterly, just because grants can be all over the place. And people are probably pulling from different grant pools that, like you said, have different timelines. So that may be challenging.
One thought I have is it might be helpful to know our baseline first, and the slide deck may really help with the baseline, and other people even that aren't here probably would contribute to the slide deck. So maybe we wait and see, and then kind of go from there once we have a sense of our baseline.
I think that's a great idea. I feel like, yeah, we're not quite there ready to decide yet. So what we can do then is talk about the resource guide a little bit and what we are hoping to achieve with that.
I do not have sharing privileges. It looks like it's linked in the thing, but Mary, if you would be so kind, I appreciate you helping.
Definitely. Let me get that up. And then, yes, I dropped the link in the chat as well.
For some of you, if you are aware of Beyond the Bell, some of this might look really familiar. This is similar to what they put out this summer in terms of just trying to get our information in one place. I have not seen their newest one, or if they're working on one for this fall winter time, because I think it was mostly summer programming that was in that first one. But basically we're going to have a template for how people will kind of fill this in, and it'll give everybody an idea of what each of our organizations do. Yeah, so we're a group. We're working as individuals. We're trying to work as a collective, and hoping that this document will facilitate that. So the template to follow includes like the title of the org, your website, who your main person to contact is, email, phone number, what kind of programming you have, the ages that you serve, and then kind of list out or provide images of that programming, and also when. And I think things like whether you have just programming or if you also have a physical location could be something that we add to this. Also adding things like the takeaways for participants that Antoine had mentioned could also get added to this. So certainly if people have suggestions, like let us know and we can make sure that we add more things and are a little bit more intentional about that. But then we also have some examples so that people can see what that looks like. So I think the first example is Muskego Way. And they have, they just kind of go about, some of it's in person. They're currently offering hybrid and virtual.
And I think just going to jump in, hearing you say like we should probably put in like location based or program based. Like I think one of the things like we can really help offer is the connections, connecting like people to resources. And so that is kind of what I tried to highlight, but I think like having a space to specifically say that is really good too. So I'll probably add that in.
Well, and we had also talked about, but decided that we wouldn't take this on, that we would kind of bring it to the group and ask the group how they want to organize this.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly once the slides are done, then we could potentially organize by location. We could organize by age range. We could organize by what people offer. So if you guys are like a support org versus a physical location org, that could be stuff that we kind of figure out how we organize this. But yeah, just kind of going through and giving that extra information. If you want to go to the next one, Mary, please. This gives you my info, our typical ages. That's what we consider youth at Safe and Sound is 12 to 24. And then for each program, I kind of went into who that specifically is for, how long it is, and unfortunately, all of my programs are things that I would have to bring to you. I don't have a physical location. So that's something that we really, I can write on there too and make really clear. And then on the next slide, I did like a continuation because we have quite a few. We do have some that are all ages as well, which is why I put those up there. And then just some like little notes about like we can pivot, we can, change things up for people's needs, and then just kind of like who to talk to about that. And I believe then Tanzania did, beyond stems, including pictures. And then her second slide, which I love, is an actual table. So like, just as long as you're giving as much information as possible in a way that's easy for people to understand, and say like, oh, I have a young person who came in, they live in this area, they want stuff around, computers. You could look at this, go through all the different slides and see who's doing any kind of programming around computers. So questions, comments, concerns, burning issues with this resource guide? I really love how much your background thinks that Beyonce is like kicking it behind you. Like the poster is amazing. It really keeps like flickering in and out. So I saw Deontay unmute, sorry.
Yeah, it's my first look at it. I like it. I think having it as just a resource, and I think it's short and sweet. So I'm thinking like we look at it as being like a brochure or something along those lines as well, like a web piece. I think it'd be cool. One thing I do think, and maybe it'd be too much, but like just like I'm thinking like a palette, right? Like these are the offerings and art, like these core areas possibly having. And I say core areas, like that's what we have here at the clubs, but like having like these umbrellas. So when I'm thinking of art, immediately I go to Antoine, like I just think of like these different, so it's very concise and people are like, all right, cool, I want these art programs. I think of MPS resource guide that they have, where it's like, okay, my young person is this old, I want to sign them up for basketball, soccer, and tennis. I can go into each of these and see what those times look like without making it more lengthy or more wordy. But I like it as it is right now, though.
Well, I think that feedback is helpful because as the team was planning, we did say like, how, you can organize it so many ways. You can do by the age, like you said, by those umbrella categories. And then whatever we land on with that, we should be able to do like a homepage kind of matrix and then hyperlink. So if I click on art, I could hyperlink those slides to art, and then it will take you there automatically, kind of like that resource guide that you mentioned, but in a digital version.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to mention one thing I think I forgot to say is that we want this to be for us to be able to use when we're working through these collective goals, but ideally it's something that we would be able to share with people outside of this group as well. Ariel had a really good example of someone who was like looking to start some programming, and she's like, well, I think it exists. So, if we have a guide that we can share with other people too, it will be really useful as well. So that is another component of it that we can consider.
I was wondering, I wrote down the 2 additional suggestions of the location-based or program-based and then objectives. Should I add those into the template and then know that organizations, obviously you can customize your information based on how you want to share it, but then at least that's a visual cue if that's information that's important to the team. What are our thoughts around that?
Thumbs up. I say yes. So we wanted to give people some time to just like start on this a little bit. But before we go into that, is there any other thoughts people have now? Nope. If something comes up along the way, you can either, like what you see so far. Good. Then it's perfect and we're done and we don't have to do any more work. But yeah, like if you think of something along the way, like email us, or you can just like save it for next time and bring it up then, and we'll be sure to incorporate it. Cause I think like all these recommendations are really good and they really get to what we need. So if you want, for a couple minutes here, we're just gonna, you can take the template and just like 2-3 minutes, just start plugging things in so that you have a head start for next time when we try to get this all done. I think the link, I'll copy the link again just one more time, throw it in the chat, and then you can just duplicate the slide right on that slide set. So if you feel like you want to turn your camera off or anything, go ahead for a couple minutes. And
Well, and if anybody has questions, feel free. You can message me directly or just whatever. I'm more than happy to help get this information in there. So
Do we want to, what else was on the agenda? I'm just wondering if people might want to do that and then take the time.
yeah, we can do some upcoming events. We can go over that now if we want to do that first.
And are we gonna put a planning meeting, our next planning meeting to see, I know Tanzania said she would come back, and Ariel, I don't know if you would, and I don't know if anyone else would maybe want, oh yeah.
Yes. So we can throw that up there. We usually do the week beforehand, but I think if there's anyone who's interested in joining the planning meeting, we can decide on a date later, one that works for everybody. Yeah. Okay. So now is a good time to throw out any events you have. Ariel said District 2 open house this Sunday. So the MPD District 2 open house from 12 to 3. I think it's like, it's on Lincoln Avenue, 1501. Hold on. Did I remember that right?
it's definitely Lincoln, but it's 245.
That is somebody else's address. So 245 West Lincoln Avenue. So there'll be food and resources and other things there. We on Thursday have a placemaking event. It's a kind of like a safer spaces pop-up at Risky Park. There's actually going to be a couple people from this meeting there. There's going to be food, music, games, exercise activities. It's from 4 to 7. I'll put that in the chat too. And then Michaela said Ex Fabulous having their Deaf Stories Slam Saturday from 7 to 9. And where is that, Michaela?
Anodyne Coffee on Bruce Street.
Cool. I didn't know they were open yet.
Yep.
And then October 2nd, Milwaukee has a free theater day for all from Ashley at the Rep. Ashley, is that, how do people participate in that?
Yes, so they'll sign up with the I see a lot in my background. They'll sign up with the registration link. And then they'll be able to participate in the monologue coaching, the various performances. So there will be a pre-registration link, and I can send that out to everyone to attend.
Thank you. I'm just trying to look up, Patrick sent me something to share with people and I'm trying to find where I put that. So just give me 1 second here. Okay. Oh, so this is Beyond the Bell. And there's a link. Okay, so Beyond the Bell is calling for City of Milwaukee to invest a minimum of 30 million in the American Rescue Plan Act to help meet the needs of young people in Milwaukee. They're calling on people to sign in on support of this investment, just saying that like we support dedicating this money toward young people's programming in Milwaukee. So Patrick asked me to share that with you all, and I'm going to include the link in the chat here. Okay. And I think unless anybody has any other events that they want to share, we can go ahead and talk about the next meeting. So October 27th is the date for our next monthly meeting. It'll be the same time. And we have a couple people who are already going to be participating. Does anyone else want to join in the planning meeting or help us co-lead in October? Antoine, is that an Antoine?
Yeah, I'm here to help.
Okay. Cool.
And I think Tanzania said she still wanted to come to
Yeah,
that.
I think so too. And I also am realizing that I think the person we're going to have do our cheer this week is not here. So does anyone have a sign off that they want to do after we wrap up?
So at my old school, every like end of the week, whatever, we would meet up and do shout outs. And so you would like call out like a specific person and why you really liked working with them or whatever. And then we would do this like stomp, stomp, clap thing. And I've been trying to figure out how to do a stomp, stomp, clap virtually. I don't know if that's like a hit the table twice and then clap, or like, I don't know. And then you would do the stomp, stomp, clap, and then you'd go, you're a superstar. And it was very cheesy, but it was super fun.
I love it.
End up laughing.
So we could just do, on the count of 3, we could do stomp, stomp, clap, you're a superstar together. Cool. And then since we're ending a couple minutes early, if you want to take that extra 5 minutes and just start working on your slides, that'll be good. And you can send, so I think, did we set a date to have those finished, planning people? I can't remember.
It said October 27th.
Okay.
Thing too. I think that's the hope.
Yeah. So if you can just have them finished, or at least like kind of a good start on them by the next meeting, that will be really helpful for us to keep building on it. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to say before we do our goodbye cheer? All right. Ariel, do you want to take it away?
Sure. We're gonna do it. If people want to unmute, we'll do it on 3. So 1, 2, 3. You're a
You're a
superstar.
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
everyone. Have a wonderful month, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.